Hey, what's up everybody? Prospector here with Watcher Realms. It seems that Moonton has snuck in a buff, or is it a nerf, for Kigiri. So let's read through that and see exactly what is going on. But without further ado, let's dig in. Okay, so if you go to the update notes for the 28th, that is here, 11/28, and you scroll down to the heroes, before we had Valkyrie in there and we had Kai in there, but now they snuck in Kigiri change for Awakened 3. Description adjustment. Before it said within 10 seconds after Sweeping Strike or an Ember Strike is activated, each direct damage dealt inflicts either 35% of the direct damage one time or 25% of the direct damage 2 times, depending if you do Ember Strike or if you do a Sweeping Strike. Sweeping Strike is obviously a lot less. You're looking at 35% damage versus 2 hits at 25% damage, which is going to be 50%. Afterwards, this stuff all stays the same, but when either of these strikes triggers Swallow Counter, the corresponding effect of this strike becomes permanent. They're saying either if you do a Sweeping Strike and a Swallow Counter is triggered, you will get the damage one time equal to 35% of direct damage. If you do an Ember Strike and Swallow Strike is triggered, you'll get the 2 25% hits instead of the 1 35% hit. And it says it's going to stay permanent. Now, I'm assuming that whenever you do direct damage, the way I'm reading this anyways, is that Swallow Strike does trigger. You are going to be able to, for the rest of the fight that he's on the field, all his direct damage that he ever does is going to trigger the corresponding effect. So it's either going to trigger the 25% of direct damage 2 times or the 35% of direct damage 1 time. So is this a buff or is this a nerf? From first reading, at first I thought it was a nerf. I was like, what do you mean it's going to be permanent? And what are we talking about here? I think it's more of a buff, but it is more of an ease of gameplay. So it's going to make it easier for you. So if you play properly and you make sure that you activate an Ember Strike every single time for a while until a Sweeping Strike is triggered, it seems to be making it easier for you to continue to do that throughout the rest of the fight, where it doesn't have to be so picky and you automatically get, either if it's a Sweeping Strike or an Ember Strike, you'll get the corresponding effect on either one of them and it won't switch back and forth on you. Let's go look at Swallow Strike and go over how that is going to look. Here, Swallow Counter, I'm sorry. When Sweeping Strike and Ember Strike end, there is a 25% chance to immediately launch an identical strike in the opposite direction. This strike cannot trigger this effect again. So at Awaken 3, there's still only a 25% chance. If you do awaken him to Awaken 5, Sweeping Strike and Ember Strike launched during Tranquil Reflection will always trigger Swallow Counter. So if you hit Awaken 5, he's going to automatically get that the first time. So depending on your first parry during Tranquil Reflection, that will inevitably change the effect of damage that you get throughout the rest of the fight from his Awaken 3, which is pretty much just altering his ultimate. And on the ultimate, sheathes the blade and prepares to launch an extra Sweeping Strike after up to 8 seconds. When receiving direct damage while sheathed, parries the damage and launches the extra Sweeping Strike early. Now, Sweeping Strike does 180% AoE damage 1 time to up to 6 enemies in the path, and 480% damage 1 time to 1 of these enemies. You're looking at a total of 660% damage. But if the parry is triggered within 3 seconds after entering the sheath state, launches Ember Strike instead. Now, the key here is making sure that it is within 3 seconds of you activating Tranquil Reflection. An Ember Strike deals 200% AoE damage 1 time to up to 6 enemies in the path, and deals 400% damage 2 times to 1 of these enemies. Looking at 1000% damage if you activate Ember Strike versus activating Sweeping Strike. So make sure when you're using Kigiri that you're activating Ember Strike. Now, if Swallow Counter is activated at that point, which there's a 25% chance when activating Sweeping Strike or Ember Strike, you will launch an identical strike in the opposite direction. And I think what they mean by that is he's going to go off, he goes through them, and on the way back, he's going to come back and he's going to do it again instead of just coming back. So basically, he's going to do the Ember Strike twice and then come back, okay? So that is your Swallow Counter, and that is why the Awaken 5 is so darn powerful. And then the Awaken 3 is going to make it so if you activate Swallow Counter during the Ember Strike the first time, you will get the bonus 2 times to direct damage of 25%. That is what they are doing. It's really complex to understand because Kigiri's kit is kind of confusing, but it is inevitably really simple as far as his use case goes. Put it in a nutshell, just make sure you're using Ember Strike as often as possible while you're using Kigiri. The damage difference is phenomenal. You don't want to just scuff that too much during your fights. It's going to make a huge difference in how much damage he's doing. But inevitably, it depends on when you are activating it. Like say during the Aegis Shield is the most important time for his damage to be as optimal as possible. So you're going to want to make sure that during the Aegis Shield, he is using Ember Strike as often as possible. So you can get through those shields, get to those high defenses, and take that boss down, especially in the later phases of the guild boss. But anyways, guys, that's all I have for the video today. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, concerns, or need help with takeovers, stage guides, hero guides, whatever, go ahead and join the Discord. It's down in the description below. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep digging.